Good afternoon. Thank you for all of you joining us here today. Today I am joined by our San Diego Police Chief, Dave Nisleit, our San Diego Fire Rescue Chief, Colin Stowell, and our San Diego Lifeguard Division Chief, James Gartland. Our fight to keep San Diegans safe continues this week and in the weeks ahead. And in a time of very great need and crisis, facts are what matter the most. So I want to assure all San Diegans that that's how we have continued and will continue to operate. And the decisions that we've made aren't easy, but they are done to prevent the spread of this very deadly virus. And I want to continue and begin to thank all San Diegans for their compliance, their patience, and their cooperation as we continue this fight against COVID-19. For today's briefing, I'd like to cover the following topics. First, today I'm signing an executive order covering several topics, including declaring all city employees to be designated as disaster workers. The second topic will be an update on the steps that our neighbors to the south in Tijuana are taking to help slow the spread of COVID-19, mirroring what we are doing here in San Diego. Third, I will give an update on the very popular Small Business Relief Fund, which launched this past Friday afternoon. And fourth is an update on the park and beach activity from over the weekend, the first weekend since we closed access to these public gathering spots. And we'll also talk about public safety staffing. And finally, I will conclude with examples of how San Diegans are continuing to step up during this pandemic. First, we have taken an aggressive and very proactive approach to this crisis. And today we're taking another step forward. Today I signed an executive order that designates all city employees as disaster service workers. And this action puts the city of San Diego's workforce, which is more than 11,000 strong, able to carry out work under the California Emergency Services Act. With this designation, any disaster service worker, regardless of their formal classification or assignment as a city employee, can assist the efforts to help protect life and property, support the city's Emergency Operations Center, and mitigate the effects of the emergency. It's a very proactive step that will help give the city of San Diego the flexibility and the capability to handle whatever may come our way, especially as we prepare for a surge of cases and activity in the future. Some city employees have already been stepping up to help enforce new rules at the beaches, parks, and trails. Some were code enforcement officers that helped park and recreation staff to educate the public about the closures. I want to thank all of the city employees for their efforts because they're really paying off. I'm going to talk about that more in just a second. This new order will also put our library employees to work, providing necessary aid to our hospitals, helping with supply distribution and food delivery, and continued help with our education efforts. The order also memorializes the closures of parks, beaches, and trails and boardwalks and bays during this health crisis. And a few other important items that I also directed today. We expanded the exemption of time restrictions on deliveries to include not only grocery deliveries, but also medical supply deliveries. All building permit and applications are extended for a period of 180 days. Fees for business licenses, also known as the business tax certificates, are waived. And any business-related fees, permits, and assessments will be deferred for up to 120 days. It memorialized the temporary moratorium on residential and commercial evictions. This is not an exhaustive list of the order, but these are some of the items that impact San Diegans and our local businesses the most. This is not a crisis that will be solved overnight, but it is a crisis where we can all continue to do our part. And we do that by working together. I also want to switch over now to our work with Mexico. San Diego has worked very quickly to respond and limit the spread of COVID-19 in our city and in our community. And we continue to work very closely with our partners in Baja California to making sure that we are aligning our actions. This is important. Diseases do not recognize borders. So it's critical that we work collaboratively for the safety of our entire binational mega region. It is with this in mind that I want to commend Baja California Governor Jaime Bonilla, because today he issued very clear directives limiting interactions among people in all of Baja, including closing restaurants and bars and only permitting delivery and takeout, closing beaches, farmers markets, and street vendors, and reducing staff at government offices to essential staff and encouraging companies to do the same. These directives build on actions taken by Tijuana Mayor Gonzalez. We in San Diego all know how very difficult this is, but it's the right move, and it will save lives. So I want to thank Governor Bonilla and Mayor Gonzalez for taking these actions to slow the spread of COVID-19. I also want to take this opportunity to remind all San Diegans that cross-border travel is limited to essential business only. So please continue to follow that direction. Now I'd like to provide a brief update on the popular Small Business Relief Fund, which launched this past Friday afternoon. There was an overwhelming response. The city has received more than 5,300 applications. In fact, 10 times more individuals than normal accessed the city's website on Friday. No surprise. Assuming everyone who submitted an application qualifies, the demand will far exceed the funding that we made available. And we put more than $6 million in that fund. I think it really speaks to the need and just how deeply our local businesses, our small businesses, need our help and need our support. From our community, from our city, and from all levels of government. So I stand committed to finding more ways to proactively grow this fund to support our small businesses that are being affected by COVID-19. Now some public safety updates. I've said this and I want to reiterate it, that San Diegans have really come through in these last several days to help. This weekend in particular, we saw our public safety professionals in force to help protect the public. And so far they are continuing to focus on education, and San Diegans are listening. It is clear that the vast majority of San Diegans stand firmly behind this goal, which is fewer crowds and fewer illnesses. This education-first approach has been an important strategy that continues to work, and I will continue to urge all San Diegans to work with us. I want to give a special shout-out to San Diego surfing legend Skip Fry for his help in getting out the message to help keep everyone safe. And now I'd like to talk about our city personnel. As of this morning, we have another officer with the San Diego Police Department that has tested positive for COVID-19. This now makes for a total of 7 public safety officers, 2 with the San Diego Police Department, 4 San Diego lifeguards, and 1 firefighter. I can't reiterate enough how important that staying at home helps our employees, our public safety employees, limit their exposure to the virus. I spoke to the officer today. He remains in very good spirits, and we'll continue to monitor his situation going forward. But I want to remind the public and have the public remember that our public safety professionals go to work for you. So we ask you to stay at home for them. And in an effort to continue limiting the spread of this virus, we have paused the current San Diego Police Academy. This is not an easy decision, as we have a historical shortage of officers that we need to fill. But we made this choice in concert with other regional departments to ensure that we're doing all that we can to prevent this spread to our incoming officers. We have also postponed the start of the firefighter academies, and we have paused an advanced lifeguard academy as well. So I want to thank all of our public safety professionals, our first responders, fire rescue, paramedics, police officers, lifeguards, for working diligently to help keep the public and our neighborhoods safe. You represent the best of our city. Now, lastly, in terms of San Diego Steps Up, it's always important, I think, to highlight those that are really doing above and beyond to give those in need a helping hand. Many of us have pets that are a part of our family, but in these uncertain times, we know that folks are struggling to pay rent or put food on the table. And there are San Diegans that are stepping up to make sure that those in need and pets in mind have access to food. The San Diego Humane Society PAWS program is distributing more than 70,000 pounds of pet food to those who need it. And my team learned of a community member who utilized that program, Lori, who stepped up even more to help out an elderly friend. She was already planning to drop off pet food donated by PAWS to a friend who lived in a senior living complex. But then Lori stepped up even more. She decided that there were likely others in the complex who were also unable to go out and get their pets food. Lori made a point to take orders for others living in the complex to really help their pets as well. And thanks to her efforts, there are many San Diego seniors that don't have to worry about going out and risking their health to feed their pet. We're asking everyone to stay at home, to stay safe, especially those older than 65. But that doesn't mean we can't help out a neighbor in need. So I mentioned this story as a reminder to some of our friends and family that aren't able to go out and grab the groceries or to grab their pet food. And it's a good time for us to maybe to check in with all of our friends, all of our seniors, to see how they are, to see how maybe you can offer a help out to help them as well. So when you see a San Diegan stepping up like Lori to offer a helping hand, share it with hashtag San Diegan Steps Up. Now more than ever, our city is coming together to help each other as we face these very unprecedented challenges. I will conclude as just a final reminder, now is not a time for complacency. Please remain vigilant. It's how we will get through this as soon as possible as one city and as one region. With that, I'm happy to pause, and myself or any of our public safety chiefs are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Hi, Mayor. Could you help us understand why the bike paths necessarily are closed? Doesn't that in some way force cyclists out on the road and make a more unsafe situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a balancing act. You continue to want people to go outside and in their neighborhoods to get that exercise, but really it's a focus on large public gatherings in some places that would just lead to gatherings that would lead to places that weren't safe.
We do spend an awful lot of money on those bike trails, millions of dollars to keep them open, keep them going. It almost seems like that bike trails might be a place you might consider essential.
Appreciate that. We have one goal: keep people safe, to keep people from congregating. And for the most part, San Diegans, as I said, are stepping up. It is difficult. This will be temporary. But again, one goal in mind: how do we keep people safe?
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. We have one other questions or texted in?
Mayor, we have a couple questions. The first one is for Chief Stowell. How important have chaplains been through this entire ordeal to help emergency workers deal with the stress and trauma? This is from ABC 10.
Well, thanks for that question. Our chaplains have been an essential part of our department for a long time, but especially right now, they provide a resource, a spiritual faith and network for our folks, a mental health guidance there. And so, of course, this is a stressful time, certainly for our first responders. The things that they're exposed to, their concerns for their own health, but they've got another stress, and that is the health and safety of their family members as well. Our chaplains are able to provide them with resources, provide them with education and reassurance of their need in the public and how we can best keep our family members safe. So they are in touch with our folks on a regular basis. We have them spread out throughout our entire department and all divisions, so they're a resource for our folks, certainly.
Thank you. We have a couple more questions. This next one from KUSI News. It involves all homeless gathered downtown on 16th and Imperial. what is being done to move San Diego's homeless population into facilities such as Golden Hall and hotels, because now we feel that they are gathered in close proximity that doesn't abide by the social distancing guidelines?
No, great, and thank you for the question. And I'll have Chief Nisleit update on what our neighborhood policing division is doing as well. Golden Hall is open. Had a chance to be over there myself and to see the folks that are moving in, some of our women from the Paul Moravli Center and others. That is really helping, because all of the work that we have done for the past week and continue to do this week is to allow social distancing from all of our bridge shelters, our other homeless service providers, to keep people safe, to keep that distance. The convention center work continued over the weekend with the shower trucks being available, cots being available. We'll have more information on when that will open soon. I think gets to the heart of that question. It's not just providing a place and opportunity for folks in our bridge shelters, but increasingly those that are experiencing homelessness on the streets to have a safe place to go to where they can not just access shelter, but then be available to be placed in either permanent supportive housing, some of the hotel rooms that are being available from the County of San Diego. This has been a real concerted, coordinated effort with one goal: how do we get people off the street into a system of care, not just for the short term, but for the long term. Our neighborhood policing division remains active, remains out there offering that help, offering that sense of support, and also really gets to the not allowing the gatherings to the point of social distancing. Chief, anything else you wanted to have on?
Thank you, Mayor. Neighborhood policing, our homeless outreach team, and our patrol units are really going out there and just doing the education piece, informing them of the dangers, making certain that they're staying with that social distancing of 6 feet. But more importantly, they're letting them know the resources. As the mayor was saying, there is shelter space open. There is a possibility of them getting one of the county designated hotel rooms, trying to get them something that would be more permanent. And so this is the avenue that we're going out there and just continuing that educational campaign to make certain that people are okay, but it also allows us to interface with people to make certain that they're not showing symptoms that they don't need immediate medical attention.
One last question, and this is from Fox 5. Were any citations issued over the weekend at parks, beaches, trails? If so, how many? For Chief Nisleit.
Go ahead, Chief.
First, I want to thank San Diegans for heeding the advice. The answer is no. We were able, just through education and explaining the process and why it is that we've closed our beaches, our bays, our parks, our boardwalks, that people were adhering to those rules. And so we wrote no citations as it pertains to our closures this past weekend.
Any follow-up from Fox? How long do you expect to keep these public areas closed?
Yeah. And obviously, we're going to continue to monitor that, but it's important that we work together as a city, as a region. As you've heard not only from our public health officials, and particularly our public health officials here in San Diego County, we are likely still on the upswing. Now is not the time to be complacent, as I said earlier. Now is the time to do everything that we can to ensure that we are not having these large gatherings, whether it's in our public spaces, our beaches, our parks. That will really help make all of the difference in the world for us as a region to get over this hump as soon as we possibly can. And so we will continue to do that in coordination and combination with our county public health officials. Okay.
Chief, if I could ask a question, please.
Sure can.
With warmer temperatures coming, do you expect it to be more difficult to patrol the beaches and keep people separated in all of those things? And what are we prepared to do to make sure that that happens?
You know, we've got a very robust plan to, we've closed all the parking lots, we've closed access to the areas, and it's really a joint effort, not only between the community, but with fire and lifeguards and ourselves, our parking enforcement, our special event traffic controllers. I'll be using some of the recruits that now are out of the academy. I had 94 of those folks that are starting today that are going to be assisting with that. So again, I'm very assured that San Diegans are going to heed our advice, but we'll be out there making certain that these areas stay closed, because this is how we're going to stop this virus, is by making certain that everybody stays away, that we keep this social distancing. And again, as the mayor was just saying, it's not a time to become complacent. As you know, they're forecasting that we have not hit our peak yet. And so it's more important that we do stay away, that we follow the rules. And there's a reason why public health and everybody has put those orders down.
Is that going to kind of lead to more citations or more stricter rules under the circumstances? Because as the weather gets nicer, I have to believe it's going to get harder and harder.
Yeah, Dave, I'm hoping not. I mean, the enforcement tool is there. You know, we can either use the government code section or the municipal code section, but I'm really hoping we don't have to go there, especially there's a lot of people out of work right now. I don't need to burden them with an additional fine of anywhere between $50 to $1,000, but the enforcement tool's there. We want people to follow the rules and comply.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. That concludes our questions for the day. Again, we want to continue to thank San Diegans for what you're doing. Practice that social distancing. That's how we get on the other side of this as quickly as possible. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, James. Good job. Thank you.